Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and today we're going to go over how to progress in Valheim, because while they do give you some direction, it's also very confusing. So let's get started. And just so we're clear, this is going to basically run up to through the second boss. I'm in the swamps, which is the third boss, but I'm going to run you through the second. Alright, first thing you need to do is build yourself an axe. Super easy. Find some stones on the floor and some branches or a little tree and punch it. And from there, build yourself an axe, cut down some trees, and build a hammer. With the hammer, you want to build a workbench. Now, it's a little weird because you need to start building your house and your base and everything. First thing you do is you put down the workbench, but you cannot use the workbench unless you build a roof over it and a bunch of walls around it. So find a spot. Normally, I'd recommend like some nice meadows that are clear. Don't bother looking for flat land. There is none. This game is procedurally generated and it generates a ton of hills and mountains. So build yourself a workbench, build a base around that, and then you can use the workbench to build leather pants or whatever, but that's not important right now. But this is the first thing, building up your house, building boxes so you can drop your materials off, and a fire. Next thing you want to do, you don't die from starvation, but food is very important because it buffs you up. So you're going to want to hunt. At this point, you're probably just going to have a club. If you're lucky, you might have a bow, but most likely you're going to have a club. And that's fine. We can hunt deer and boar with that, no problem. Deer run, boar do not. So when you get a deer, you want to sneak up on it. This one's walking towards me, so it'll see, but it doesn't alert the others. Press control, and you will sneak. Now you see this drains your stamina, so be careful. And don't worry about it looking behind you. It won't see you. When you sneak up on it, hit it, swing twice just in case, because blunt weapons don't do as much to deer, and a club is a blunt. So use whatever you got, spear, dagger. If you have a bow, bow's obviously the easiest. You can shoot them from range. You want to get the food, and you want to get the deer hides. Use the deer hides to craft. You're going to want armor and whatever else you need. A bed is definitely something you want in your house because that is a spawn point. So if you die, you will automatically spawn back in your bed. So make sure that is up as well. The armor is going to be useful for the boss. As you see here, the bed, you click E on it, it's your spawn point. You can only have one spawn point, but you can have multiple beds. And that's how you cook food. You need to make a fire and then put a cooking station over the fire and then put the food on there and wait until it's cooked. Once you see that kind of flash right there, take it off. If you leave it too long, it'll turn into charcoal. Charcoal has its uses, but you don't need it right now. The other big thing we're looking for is deer trophies. Those come off the deer, so don't worry too much. And necks. Kill the necks because you can have both the deer and boar meat, which will give you a buff, and then the neck meat, which will give you a buff as well. And then you can have like a raspberry or a mushroom or whatever. But you want the two meats for sure. So make sure you kill the necks and you cook their meat on the fire. Once you are feeling confident, you have your deer armor, you have ideally a shield and a melee weapon and a bow, all of those, plus cooked meat and some sort of raspberries or other meat. You want 3 food buffs. Find where your boss is and start working your way over there. Make sure you have the deer trophy because that is required to summon the boss. Now before you do this, make sure you have your food buffs. So look at it and see this. I'll give you a quick what it does. See, it gives you health and stamina. Basically, it's going to add 60 health to your max health, and then it's going to add additional stamina as well. That's what food does, and you can have 3 of them on at once. So eat them all. Your HP bar should go up, and then wait until it fills all the way up. Put the deer trophy on your bar, and then use it on the altar, which will summon the boss. Now, I can whoop the crap out of this thing because I have bronze armor. Likely, you're not going to be able to do that. So make sure you have your shield and whatever your weapon is and block his attacks. If there's 2 of you, I recommend one of you hold the shield to block while the other one shoots arrows and then take a few swings every now and then. And you can also dodge if you're good at that. I'm not. But again, I have bronze armor. This guy, he's got a few attacks. Like when you see him do that, block. As long as you hold your shield up and you use the rocks sort of as a line of sight for your archers, you'll be able to beat him. When you do beat him, you need to drop his head off at the ruins here. This is where you spawn in, so it'll be on your map for sure. Actually, if the deer boss isn't on your map, you need to come here, now that I think about it. And you need to interact with that rune right there. It'll be on your map for sure, the rune. Like, yeah, there it is right there. And then it marks the boss for you. I'm pretty sure the bird tells you to do that, but just in case you haven't, that's how you get the boss on your map. and then drop the head off at the altar like I did. Okay, that's part 1 done. Now we're going into part 2. We have a few different things we need to do here, and I'm going to tell you now, because this might be the point you stop playing. You are very likely going to be building multiple bases in this game. This is why I have teleporters, because you cannot warp with any type of ore. Bronze, tin, iron, whatever's past iron, I don't know what it is. So you're either A, going to be running around a ton with a bunch of heavy equipment, or you're going to build multiple bases. That way you can just forge stuff. Just letting you know now. But what we're looking for now, first, actually, what we just shown, with the deer antler, you can build a pick. We need the pick, so do that. With the deer antler you got from the boss, you can build, I would honestly, if you can build 2 picks, build 2 picks. If you can build 3, build 3, because they break real fast. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier. Repairs are done at the workbench. Just click the repair hammer. It'll repair everything. Click it until it's grayed out. And it doesn't cost anything. It's free. A few more generic tips. First off, we're going to be looking for a place called the Black Forest. I guarantee you it's around where you're at because it's everywhere near the starting spot. This is basically, let's just say the meadow is tier 1 and Black Forest is tier 2. So make sure that you are ready for that and you have your pickaxe. So find yourself a nice little spot near a Black Forest, and this is where I recommend building your second base. There are 3 main things we need from the Black Forest. First off is copper deposits. This is why we built the pick. They look like this. They're little rocks that kind of have the shimmer of ore in them. Copper is not guaranteed. It's a big hassle. It's annoying. You can't warp with it, and it's heavy. So you're going to be doing a lot of traveling. Be careful not to do that because you can fall to your death. Then the second thing is tin deposits. Tin is generally around water. If you run around in the Black Forest, they're pretty easy to find. The harder one to find is copper, and you need both of these. You need both of these because you need to combine them to make bronze. So grab all of that and then run back to your base and drop it off. And then the next thing you are looking for, basically skeletons. Skeletons will lead you to these kind of ruins here, these underground passages, and they're basically mini dungeons. You need to do them. I recommend a blunt weapon because skeletons are weak to blunt weapons. So either a club, or if you have the elk smasher or the big hammer that the elk makes, you do that as well. We have to go through these for a very specific reason. And you'll be going through a lot of them because you are looking for Surtling cores. Obviously, I'd mark them on my map, but it's procedurally generated, so our maps aren't going to match. But when you go down into the ruins, these are the cores. You'll normally get somewhere between 6 and 10, depending on how big the dungeon is, and it takes 5, generally 5 per thing you want to craft. So you're going to have to go through the dungeons quite a few times. This part's important. Make sure you click that ruin because it gives you the location of the second boss. The second boss has multiple locations on the map. So while I have just found one up there, I also fought him down here. So it'll be the boss nearest to whatever your ruins are. And by the way, mark your copper on the map, because if you don't have a good memory, just double click on the map where you're at and then use whatever icon and type copper. That way you'll know for the future. And ruins for these caves, trust me, marking your map is going to make things a lot easier for you. Okay, with the Surtling cores, you need to make 2 things. First off, you need to make the charcoal kiln, which is right there. This gives you charcoal, which fuels your smelters. Build the charcoal thing and the smelter, and then you can put tin ore and copper ore into that side, and then power it up with your coal. I recommend 2 because this stuff it smelts really slow. So if you can have 2 smelters and then a charcoal kiln, you'll be good to go. It takes a while either way. You're just going to have to deal with it. That's just how it is. While you're waiting, you can bust out your hammer. This is a good time to point this out. When you right click to go to your build menu in the hammer and the miscellaneous tab, it'll have the repair option right up there. Click it. This is how you repair stuff. Look over your stuff. Just left click. Real simple. It doesn't take any materials or anything like that. While you're waiting for your ore to smelt, you might as well make sure your base is good to go. And then another thing to look at while you are looking at your crafting materials, you can see that there are these other star things next to the workbench, also next to my smelter, or my forge. And those are important. So go to your workbench and you want to put all those items around to upgrade the level of your workbench. See, mine's level 4. This means I can craft level 4 materials, level 4 equipment and everything. You can see how the orange lines went to it. It's similar to the actual forge here. If you go over to that, You can see that I have my other materials attached to it as well. This just upgrades the level of forge, which allows you to craft higher level stuff. That's down the line for you because you're probably still doing copper, which once you have bronze and tin, you can start making copper. And once you make a single copper bar, that's going to unlock all sorts of weapons and armor that you can build with copper. And that is the stuff you want to focus on. Personally, I would go with the pick first because you're going to need a lot of ore and you need a stronger pick that's going to last longer. And by the way, this is where you repair any of your metal stuff. The forge is where you repair stuff. So I recommend first and foremost the pick. Get that, and that way you can get ore easier. The axe, that way you can get better quality wood because you're going to need that as well. And then armor and weapons would probably be the next priority for me at least. And if you're having trouble with trolls, because they do, I swear, once you start mining copper, they just spawn. Or bronze, whatever. I keep getting confused. But you know what I mean. You need to get the ore to make the copper. But I swear, trolls spawn out of nowhere. Run them through trees. They get caught up on trees. They get caught up on stumps. If you have a bow, it takes a while. I know I'm using fire arrows, but this is a 1-star troll. You'll be fighting normal trolls. Even with the starter bow and basic arrows, you can whittle them down eventually. And they do have armor you can craft. It's not as good as the bronze, but it's also better than the deer. So if you need to do it, do it. And let's talk about portals really quick, because these are going to be very important to you. Once you have the upgraded, once you get bronze and get the bronze axe, you can start chopping down the harder trees, which gives you the harder wood. Then you can build yourself a teleporter. Now you can see my tag is home. That means when I go through this gate, it will go through the next teleporter, which is also tagged home. So you need 2 teleporters, which makes sense, right? You need one at home and one at your other base. And what we recommend is, if you're planning on setting out to go get a base, set an inactive teleporter in your home base and then tag it, base 2 or whatever. Make sure it's not overrating any of your other portals. Name it base 2. Bring the materials to craft a second teleporter, so that way when you find the new land and find the new base, you can put the teleporter down and immediately teleport home. These are very important. The only downside, as I said, is you can't transport metal ore. You can transport the weapons and armor after you craft them. This is just going to make it easier for you to get back and forth. Once you have enough bronze, you have your armor, you have your helmet, you have your weapon, your shield, and I'm recommending fire arrows for this one as well. You need one more thing to summon the boss, and that is ancient seeds. These come from gray dwarf hives. And yeah, that's what they look like, those big purple things. So while you're running through the Black Forest, keep an eye out for those. By the way, you can parry with your shield if you block at the right time, and it just does more damage on your next hit. So clear the hive out, clear the nest out of the gray dwarfs, and you want to break that nest. The nest will then drop an ancient seed. You need 3 ancient seeds to summon the boss. And I'm not going to summon the boss. This one is a pain, so I don't want to fight him again. But to beat him, again, I recommend fire arrows because you're going to be doing a lot of line of sight. Once you have the seeds, go to the boss and throw them in the fire, and that will summon the boss. Now, why I recommend fire arrows is because this boss shoots out vines. Some of them will surround you, but if you use these pillars to block the ones that shoot out of his hands, he can't hit you with them. So he'll shoot them, you shoot him with a bow, and basically you round robin yourself. You keep running from pillar to pillar. And if there's 2 of you, I recommend splitting up, or 2 of you or more, really. That way he's distracted by one, and then the other one can just shoot him with arrows. Honestly, 100 fire arrows and 2 bows. Yes, 2 bows, because you're probably going to break your bow shooting arrows at this thing. Whittle them down. Don't get greedy and use your food. Make sure that you are topped off HP-wise as well. And then once you beat him, he will give you a swamp key. Swamp key, obviously used in the swamp. That is where I am currently in the game. I'm going to tell you how to find the swamps, or at least help you try to find the swamps, and then we will wrap this video up. All right, so what you need, bronze nails. First off, you're going to need to build a boat. It is very unlikely you'll be able to run to a swamp. You might be able to, but it's going to be so far away. What's the point? So yeah, go to any water that you feel comfortable putting a giant boat in. You can use a raft, but they are so slow. I highly, highly recommend building the Carve. It's a nice looking boat, and it goes much quicker. Like, you don't even necessarily need the wind to help you out to actually move. And there's our boat. And again, make sure you build an extra teleporter and name it at home. That way you can, again, see our base. We can connect easily. And when you're looking for swamp, look for those trees over there. Now, just because you've got bronze gear, do not think you are safe there. These guys hit hard. I have died many times to slimes and leeches. Poison is the biggest issue there. So, if you can, I also recommend building a cauldron in your base. And there, any queen bees that you have found, those come from beehives. Anytime you find a beehive, break it and then make a beehive back at your base, because honey is worth its weight in gold. It's healing potions, it's resistance potions, both frost, which you'll need for the mountain, and poison resistance, which really helps with the swamp. Anytime you see a beehive, shoot it with a arrow, jump up, get it, whatever, and then make as many beehives as you can and protect it. Beehives can only have 4 honey in them, so make sure you check it, every other day to make sure it doesn't get overfilled. And then there's a couple more things that I know about. There is a fishing pole, but you have to find a merchant, which I haven't found. So you can fish. You just have to find the merchant. I've seen the black hooded man. I shot him with an arrow. He disappeared. Haven't seen him since. I have no idea what that's about. Iron is in the swamp. When you go into a swamp dungeon, bring your pickaxe, because you need to basically clear debris to get through get through those dungeons. And if you're just exploring, I recommend leaving your armor and weapons behind, because first off, you're going to run much quicker. Second off, if you die with all your stuff on, you got to go back and get it, which really sucks. So if you're just like, hey, you know what? I want to see what's through here. I want to find some ore or whatever. Take it all off. You have your food buffs. That way you have your HP and your stamina. But when you die, it's no pressure. You don't have to go back and get your stuff. But anyways, and this is a very long video. It's probably one of my longest videos in a long time. But that's going to do it for me. That should get you at least to the swamps. As I progress further and further, I will do a second part to this video as I figure out what else we need to do. But this is as far as I am right now. I hope this helps you get to the swamp, and I hope this makes you enjoy your game of Valheim even better. So, that'll do it for me. If you liked what you saw and got what you needed, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later, Gators.